Head to Head, I'm Katie Nickolaou. It's a new year and a new semester. What do you have for your resolution?
And I'm Jordan Morandini. I've set my sights on eating real wholesome food, so I'm sacrificing my McDonald's for some Five Guys. Happy New Year. We're going head to head right now. What's good, y'all? Welcome to the new year. Too much has happened since our last show, including some history written in the books for Valpo basketball star Alec Peters. He has broken the all-time scoring and rebounding records held by Bryce Drew himself and Chris Emzinger. Is it now, Katie, safe to say that Peters is the greatest Crusader basketball player of all time?
You know, I definitely would say so. Once he walks into the arc, you can just see it during practice and especially during the game when he gets the ball. The crowd becomes electric. You can just feel the energy, especially when you hear his name coming over the loudspeaker, Alec Peters. I mean, there's some sort of energy that just comes with that, and I think very few players can cause that sort of excitement. And, you know, when he declared for the draft last spring, I was really happy for him, but I have to say I was a lot happier when he decided to come back. I was so glad when he came back, and, you know, I definitely would have to say that he is probably the best.
Yeah, and the Crusaders obviously were extremely happy when he announced to come back as well. I agree with you. I think there's no doubt. You can't really even honestly discuss this at this point. I mean, when you're the all-time leading scorer, all-time leading rebounder, that alone pretty much puts you at the best basketball player. I mean, and you have to look at some of the other things he's accomplished as well. You know, he's won a regular season title. He's won a Horizon League tournament title. There's one thing left for Alec Peters to do, and that's something that could potentially happen this year, and that is an NCAA tournament game win.
Yes.
So that's going to be something to look out for. It's really frustrating he didn't get the chance, at least the opportunity to have that chance last year because of the loss to Green Bay in the Horizon League tournament. Because that team, with all that talent and all the talent they had off the bench, all the senior leadership, that team would have had a really good chance, I think, to make kind of a Cinderella story type run. But this year, I mean, it's pretty clear to me that they are the best team in the Horizon League this year. So I do think that this team has potential, and that's really the one thing Alec has left to kind of add to that legacy.
Yes, oh, definitely. And can you imagine if he decides, probably this year he's going to go back to the NBA draft. He hasn't declared yet as of late, but as far as I know. But I think that'll look great on his roster. And,
no question about it. His resume looks great, and I've looked and kind of kept up with where he's at in mock drafts and stuff like that. He's all the way up to number 24.
Goodness,
that's
Utah
fantastic. Jazz at number 24 right now are taking Alec Peters. That's how good he has been this season, and really you can tell NBA scouts, they're at every one of his games. They're really starting to see some progression in his game, and you know it's showing in those mock drafts.
Definitely, and you know it's going to be so great if he gets drafted to be able to say we have Alec Peters going to the NBA. That's just coming from Valpo. We're a small school, and compared to these big schools, I mean, you're seeing Oregon, Michigan State, just to name a few. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Should be really exciting.
Yep, awesome. Well, time for Valpo women's hoops, where the Crusaders have lost 11 straight going to the UIC this weekend. One pro among all these cons is star forward Danny Franklin, scoring her 100th point last week. She's right near the top in the league in scoring. Is she being underlooked due to her team's lack of success this season?
Yeah, that was her 1,000th point. 100% no question she's being underlooked. And it's really frustrating, you know, from the standpoint of she's one of the best 5 players in this league. There's no question about it. And with the team, and as much as they've struggled, they're at 0-9 in conference play this far, it's going to be really hard for them to put her on the first team All-Horizon League with, you know, the record that her team's produced. But like I said, she is one of the 5 best players in this conference. She's a big-time player. I mean, she can score down low. She can shoot the 3 extremely well, which is a very underrated part of her game. She shoots over 45% from downtown. She had a really cool moment during the last men's game where Alec got his Alec took over the scoring record, excuse me. But at halftime, she went out during the men's game and got acknowledged for her 1,000th point. That was a really cool moment for her and good exposure, too, for maybe people who, you know, they pay attention to the men's side of things but don't see the women's side of things with the struggles. But a really cool moment for Danny, and well-deserved, too. She's a very talented player.
Definitely. And whenever I look up women's basketball here, we have ValpoAthletics.com, which is great. I look at their stats, and I can't see an article without without seeing her name headlining.
Yeah.
She is definitely one of the star players of that team, and I really think she's doing a great job, even though they've been struggling. And I mean, there could be many factors going into that. She has really pushed through, and she's found a way to shine through.
Okay.
And it's fantastic to see that, because a lot of people, they'll get discouraged and then it'll kind of just be like, okay, can we just end this? But she is really putting effort in, and you mentioned the three-point game.
Yeah.
That's always crucial, especially if you're down in a game. You have that three-point threat that can actually get you back into the game.
Yeah,
So.
and we'll touch on the team's three-point struggles in a little bit here, but
Yeah.
she is the lone player on the team who has shot the three ball well, and she's near the top of the conference as well in that three-point percentage, so she's fantastic there. And along with that, she's just exactly what you want as a leader. She's not necessarily like a very outgoing, but she's a little quiet, no question about it, but very nice girl, off the court. She's just a fantastic person. That's exactly who you want leading your program.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so great to just walk around Valpo and you see all these athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when you think about these big games, it kind of dehumanizes the people because they're such big stars. And, she's really nice, and it's so nice to see.
Yeah, no question about that. And now we're going to transition actually into the team side of things. And as said earlier, the women's team has lost 11 straight, including a winless 0-9 conference record halfway through league play. UIC is also 0-9 going into this Saturday. So Katie, I ask you, will this finally be the day that the Crusaders break through?
I really think this is the best chance they've had so far. UIC, they're pretty evenly matched as far as I'm concerned. But, I mean, it's been a rough season, to say the least. I mean, losing 11 straight. They haven't won a game since December 10th of 2016, so it's been rough. But like we were talking about earlier with Danny, there are some bright spots in it. And I think as long as all the stars align, I think they'll be able to easily push through. And, I think it should be a good result.
Yeah, it should be a good game on Saturday. A couple things. Let's go through a little bit why they've struggled. Some of the reasons why they've struggled. They haven't been great on the glass this season. They've been better as of late, specifically crashing the offensive glass, but still a lot of teams lately have had double-digit offensive rebounds against them. They have to do a better job on the defensive glass. Along with that, they really haven't had much consistency in the backcourt. They've had Danny Franklin kind of carrying the load of this team, but Hannah Shaw, Meredith Hamlet, two players who can put together really good games, but haven't been overly consistent this season and not overly efficient shooting-wise, and that's been a big problem. They're still a very turnover-prone team, and this is something we've seen for so many years lately for this women's basketball program. They average over 19 a game. They have committed over 100 more turnovers than their opponents.
Oh my
That is a crazy statistic. And like I mentioned, the shooting woes was my last point I wanted to touch on. This just hasn't been a good shooting team. 38% from the floor, 29% from three. Caitlin Morrison shooting 31% from beyond the arc. No other Crusader player apart from Danny Franklin is above 30% from three-point range. That's something that has to change moving forward. This team has to be more efficient. They have to shoot the basketball better. And I think this weekend, this Saturday against UIC, is a really good opportunity to get it going. But from a UIC standpoint, you have to look at this. They're thinking the same way. They're at 0-9. They're coming into this game. They're thinking, this is our opportunity to get this win, to really turn our season around. So the Crusaders could see the best of the Flames this weekend. So it's going to be a big-time game, both teams. I expect a very close matchup.
They're definitely going to both want to fight for that win, but I'm still pulling for Valpo. I have faith in it. They have the talent. It's just they got to make sure they have that accuracy you mentioned off the glass, and it's just you got to really just put in. And you gotta make sure that you get those points. Even 2 points, just free throws, every point counts.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be able to convert and make a few points.
I do also think they pick up the win this weekend, but Danny Franklin is going to need at least two other Crusaders, I think, in double digits to pull this game off. So we'll see. It's going to be a good one, though.
Definitely
going to be a good one. All right, coming up, we look back at what is quite possibly the craziest year in sports we've ever witnessed.
And Super Bowl 51 is set for the Falcons and Patriots. We'll take a trip down the road that led them to Houston. Don't go anywhere.
Good morning, Valparaiso University. What's the better way to start your day than with a new jam? And WVUR has just what you need.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it... If dying young won't change your mind, baby,
Broadcasting sports, news, weather, and music on air, online, and on campus. WVUR IG.
It's our first show of 2017, but looking back at 2016, man, it was an unbelievable year in sports. Villanova winning the national title at the buzzer. The Cavs bringing Cleveland its first professional sports title in decades. The Cubs winning their first World Series in over 100 years. And Clemson avenging Alabama in the college football national championship. Not to mention, of course, Valparaiso men's basketball going to the NIT final. Six-seeded Valpo softball making a Cinderella run to their third Horizon League tournament in championship in 5 years. And Valpo's men's tennis players, Jeffrey Schorsch and Charlie Emhart, finishing runner-up in the ITA National Indoor Championships. So, Katie, I ask you, after that mouthful, out of all these monumental moments, which was the craziest in your opinion?
In my opinion, there are two craziest moments. For me, the biggest national sports story was the Cubs. I mean, I am from Michigan. I'm more of a Tigers fan. But my gosh, that was beautiful. I was in our dorm, and all you could hear was just screaming. Anyone who was a fan, anyone who wasn't a fan, you have to get on that hype train. But locally, I gotta say men's basketball. That was my favorite. It's my first experience. I was a freshman, and I got to see men's basketball at probably one of their best seasons. So I was pretty psyched. What about you?
Yeah, the NIT run was insane. For me, for me, I think it was the Cavs beating the Warriors. I think so, just because, one, the Warriors had the best season of all time given regular season, the record that we all know. And I have been noted as potentially a Warriors hater. I'm not a big Warriors fan by any means. Just the plays down the stretch in that series. You saw, the LeBron block in Game 7 to set up the Kyrie Irving game-winning three-pointer over Steph Curry. To me, it doesn't necessarily trump the Cubs, because obviously the Cubs in this are probably the biggest story given where we're located and such. I'm not a Cubs fan, so I don't see it that way. Yeah, I know. But I think the Cavs or the Warriors was what I would go for national-wise. When it comes to the Valpo, obviously the NIT run was fantastic. To me, the Schorsch and Emhart combo is one that I expect me and whoever is, David when he's on, you when you're on, to discuss a lot come this spring. Because this is a duo that, let's be honest, this men's tennis program has not seen. They have not had players of the caliber of this duo. We're going to talk a lot about them. And along with that, I do want to touch on as well the softball run. The softball run was incredible. A team that really struggled throughout the season, struggled with their pitching, found it at the right time in tournament time, and were just fantastic. That was a great run, but overall, what a year in sports.
For sure, it was amazing. Well, back to college hoops. Duke's Grayson Allen has been a story all college basketball season, with another tripping incident occurring earlier in this year. Since then, he hasn't seemed to be himself. Do you think all the hate he's received has gotten to him?
I do. I think there's really no question about it. I mean, this is a Duke team that was predicted to be really, really good. I think they were like a preseason, maybe top 3 team, maybe even number 1. I can't remember specifically. I mean, they've had a couple injuries to some of their top guys, but this is not a team that people predicted to have this many losses at this point in the season. Grayson Allen, a very talented player, one of their leaders, obviously. He needs to have a big year for them to be a big-time player and have a chance down the stretch. I mean, you look at his last 5 games, kind of since that second or whatever tripping incident it was, he's only had 1 game over 13 points. So I do think this has definitely affected him, and it's something that, he has to be better down the stretch for this Duke team to really have a chance.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I think the social media side of the story really took its toll this season. Because if you look back throughout history, Facebook and Twitter, those are just newer developments. And the uproar that I saw on ESPN's post about it and everything, I mean, if he even glanced at those comments, I was shaken, and I don't even know the man. So I think definitely the nation's eyes on him, though. Going forward, if he even slips a little bit, I mean, people are going to start talking about it again. And I think he just has to really kind of just put the blindfold on and just be like, okay, I know what I'm doing. It's in my gut. I'm going to do this. And I think he's just got to shake off the weight of the nation on him.
And I think it's something that other teams and other players are going to maybe use as an advantage moving forward, too. Try and get in his head a little bit on the floor and try and get him to make that mistake. And everyone knows that everyone's going to hear about anything that he does on the floor. There's been the comparison of him to Christian Laettner, kind of the same kind of hate that has come to Grayson Allen. And I think it's a fantastic comparison. Both obviously very hated, both Duke players. The comparison just fits perfectly. And, it's something that, down the road, are we going to see a 30 for 30 on Grayson Allen?
Yeah.
We may. We may at the rate that it's going. But, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, this is a Duke team that I think, could definitely do some damage in the tournament. But he's a player who he's got to get his head right mentally. He has to be there, and he has to be there 100% for this team to be able to compete.
Yeah, and not only is it just affecting him, but the entire team. Imagine being his teammates. There's a certain sense of worry, like what's going to happen, like are we going to get into the national spotlight again for this? Like you're worried. So I think they just got to be able to do what they do best, and I don't see any reason why they would be held back at all by what's been going on.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see down the stretch where Duke goes. But now we're going to transition into the NFL side of things, and the stage has been set for the Super Bowl. The Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots, and this is after Atlanta dominated Green Bay at home in one of the highest scoring games we've seen in NFL playoff history. So Katie, I ask you, just how impressed were you with Atlanta's win over the Pack?
Oh my goodness, I was not expecting that.
Yeah?
See, my roommate is from Wisconsin, big Packers fan, and from what I've been seeing with her watching the games on the weekends, I've been on the hype train. I'm like, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to get it. And I went out to dinner that night at Industrial Revolution, and they had the game on the screens, and I looked up, I'm like, that's gotta be a typo. That's really high scoring. And I mean, no, that was just what it was. And so I was caught off guard. But I mean, seeing how the Super Bowl is going to match up with the Falcons and the Patriots, it's just I'm really excited for this. I think it's going to be a fantastic game.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good one. And heading into this Atlanta-Green Bay game, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was playing as good at the quarterback position as maybe we've seen almost ever.
Oh, yeah.
He was on an absolute tear. But I think in this game it finally caught up to him that he didn't necessarily have the talent around him that some of these other quarterbacks have, such as Matt Ryan, who was on the other side of the field in this game. Atlanta, their offense is so dynamic, so good. You saw both Coleman and Freeman, both the running backs, get involved, not only in the running game, but in the pass game. You saw Matt Ryan do just a fantastic job getting his star receiver. Julio Jones was fantastic. Proved to me that, he is a top 2 receiver in the league, in my opinion. And Matt Ryan himself, I mean, to me, he's the MVP this year. He has played that good at the quarterback position. He obviously, the Falcons have done a fantastic job getting talent around him, but you really saw in this game just how good he was. And I mean, this offense is the real deal and is going to be an extremely tough out in the Super Bowl.
Definitely. Now, how big of a role do you think the injuries for Green Bay had in this game?
Yeah, because they obviously they did have a couple of the wide receivers, a couple different wide receivers were dealing with some injuries. Jordy Nelson had like broken ribs. You see, he was wearing like an army bulletproof vest or something under.
Yeah, it was like a big.
Yeah, a couple other receivers were dealing with some injuries. Obviously, Eddie Lacy was out for the year. So yeah, I think obviously Rodgers' cast was hurt down a little bit, and I do think that played a big role, but Green Bay just didn't do as good of a job, I think, really, as the Atlanta front office at getting talent around Aaron Rodgers. Because, the Green Bay defense could not stop Atlanta in this game.
No.
And it didn't matter how many points Rodgers was going to put up. It seemed like Ryan was going to outduel him.
Oh, easily. It was just fantastic to watch. All right, well, on the other side, the Patriots took down the Steelers pretty handily. Was this another day at the office for Bill Belichick and Tom Brady? Or did you expect something from the Steelers?
I expected this to be a little bit better of a game. You know, heading in, I thought this was probably, it had a chance to be really a classic with the two big-time quarterbacks, Ben Roethlisberger trying to get another ring, obviously Brady trying to avenge everything that he's dealt with, that he dealt with the suspension at the beginning of this year. But in this game, you just saw what the Patriots have done so many times over the years in a playoff atmosphere. Brady was fantastic. He turned another no-name receiver into what looked like a star. Chris Hogan, a former Buffalo Bill.
Oh, yeah.
He had 2 touchdowns and I think over 150, 170 yards in this game. It's just what the Patriots have done so many times in the postseason. They got Edelman involved. They had the run game with Blount and company. And really the defense, this is a Patriots defense I think that has been underlooked a little bit. It's a pretty good defense.
Definitely.
And it made it tough for Roethlisberger, especially in the red zone, to put points on the board. You know, it kind of sucked a little bit not to be able to see Le'Veon Bell play that entire game. He went down with the injury early. But, you know, and Antonio Brown kind of got shut down a little bit too after his whole Facebook fiasco that he went through. So, yeah, that wasn't a great look for him. But, I mean, we've seen this so many times in the postseason with the Patriots. They just look like the better team top to bottom, and this was one of those games.
Awesome. And do you have a specific pick on who you're going to take for the win?
I think we're going to say we have to save that for next week. Yeah, there's a full week before the games. We have to save that for next week. We may get yours, though, potentially.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see. How about you?
I'm always a Brady.
Just in case.
I'm a Brady fan.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a Michigan girl. I love Brady.
Oh, there it is. There's the connection.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll take a quick pause, and when we come back, we'll wrap it up with the first fast break of the new year. Stay right there.
Good morning, Valparaiso University. What's the better way to start your day than with a new jam? And WVUR has just what you need.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it... If dying young won't change your mind, baby, right now.
Broadcasting sports, news, weather, and music on air, online, and on campus. WVUR.
Ready, set, fast break. First off, can Valpo women's basketball finish the year with at least 3 conference wins?
I definitely think so. They have the talent, and if they're playing UIC, I think if they pull out that win, they'll have a great chance because they'll play them again later on in the season. All right, now, it's likely the men's basketball team will win the league. Can they pull it off by 2 games or more, though?
I think they can. One crucial game this weekend against Wright State. If they can beat Wright State, I think they pull it off. Looking ahead, women's softball was picked to finish 3rd in the Horizon League. Think they'll finish there or better?
I think they can actually finish better. They have the talent, so I definitely want to go with that. All right, now, some bracketology experts are pairing Valpo with Maryland for a rematch from 2015. Are the Terps a worthy opponent for VU?
Well, from a Crusader standpoint, they have to get there first, but no question that would be a great matchup. And lastly, will Jabril Adekoya play another game in a Crusader uniform?
I think he definitely will. I see him as a senior, and he definitely probably wants to play, so I think he'll definitely do that. Awesome. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Head to Head.
We'll be back with a new show next week.
And follow us on Twitter at VUTV Sports for the latest.
Until next time, she's Katie Nickolaou. I'm Jordan Morandini. We'll see you on the flip side.